once again, thank you so much for joining us on this week's Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Coming up in just a few minutes, spreading the good news of an entire region and its people in a whole new way. We'll have that. But first, I've been in this area long enough to remember neighbors asking neighbors if they saw the TU game last night. The name of the university changed in 1967 when the university was given the status of a state-funded university by the Ohio General Assembly. But the University of Toledo has been such an important cog in the wheel of what is the Glass City. And as we hit the midpoint of this decade, we've hit a turning point for the university as well. In May, the university's long storied history added yet another chapter with the naming of an interim president with local ties. We are so pleased to have UToledo's, as it's known now, UToledo's interim president joining us here on Leading Edge. Welcome. Please send a welcome to Central Catholic and UT grad Matt Schroeder. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about, I want to first start off, I want to do a little history lesson, and I want to go back on the past presidents that we've seen with the university, this institution. And for me, as I told you before we started today, I look at this list and I think about, and I kind of focus on what their specialty was. And Dr. Postal, obviously, there was a lot done with the UT Medical Center in his time here. That makes sense.
Yep.
Dr. Gaber, while she was here, there was a lot of time spent on looking at the dynamics of what was the foundation for the university. And you here today, and I told you this all kinds of leads into a bigger question, but with your financial background, and I probably don't have to read the headlines, but certainly there's a lot of angst over this. University of Toledo interim provost explains decision to cut programs. University of Toledo enrollment continues downward slide, and the Blade article mentioned Owens, BG continue upward trend. And then the Toledo Blade reported in September, University of Toledo had experienced a 3.8% decline in total enrollment. As part of the article, you spoke to the Blade and you said, it will take discipline and execution of our enrollment and recruitment plans to turn this around. We had to hold ourselves, or we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yep.
As you step into this position, I know it's been a few months. What's your read on things?
So first and foremost, there's a time and a place for every leader. So you went back to Dr. Jacobs. We can go back one more to Dan Johnson. He was a healer. Dr. Jacobs brought together two great institutions, the Medical College, University of Toledo. Dr. Gaber, she was very impactful as well. And then Dr. Postal saved the University of Toledo Medical Center with the supplemental payment. So as we sit here today, we have 10 to 12 years of enrollment declines in the making. Mm-hmm. With my background, not only from a finance side of the house, but a longtime Toledo employee in multiple roles, I believe I know the institution the best. I think the board appointing me, which I'm very grateful for, also signals their trust and confidence in me. And I said to the Blade and other media outlets, it is a time to reposition the University of Toledo, but in a very thoughtful, meaningful way. When we sit back and we look at the university and the role that it plays in Northwest Ohio and our portfolio of academic programs, we are an engine for this economy. And we have a lot of really, really good things going on.
Or where the economy is headed, maybe, right?
Well said. So when we look out with Bureau of Labor Statistics data, Job and Family Service data, 5+ years, our portfolio of professional programs, STEM programs, and the health sciences, in-demand jobs, you can come to the University of Toledo and be trained and be in a position, for some, right out of the gate to make six figures. Back to the challenges that we face, and I like to say with every challenge there's opportunities. There are a tremendous amount of opportunities at the University of Toledo, not only to come in and get that degree for a in-demand job, a high-paying job, but really when you take a step back, and I like to say, you know, our vision is the regional force powering opportunities to learn, care, work, and play. Mm-hmm. The learning is obviously straightforward, undergrad, grad. Work or care, the UTMC, University of Toledo Health. The work, in terms of lifelong learning, an engine for economic development. We bring in young talent, and it's our responsibility to make sure that young talent is deployed into the local economy. And then the play, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is athletics
Sure.
and opening up our campus for destination.
We'll save that for the end, but we do have to talk about the athletics program. Mr. Blair would be upset probably if we didn't mention it a little bit. You continued to say the school has said that it plans to continue its efforts to diversify enrollment, improve student success, and to better tell the UToledo story to prospective students. I do want to share something earlier this week, and we were able to confirm it. Megan Cunningham, Vice President of Communications with the university, shared with us a statement that was released relatable to enrollment and some of the changes that have been made internally in that frame. Can you talk about that a little bit and where UT is headed as far as, because I say this because we all know enrollment is the engine that drives this machine that is the university, correct?
Absolutely. So we do not have a lot of diversity in our revenue streams. It's tuition and fees and it's net patient service revenue. Tuition and fees makes up about 40% of our revenue, clinical about 60%.
I don't mean to be flip, but there was also $1 million+ that were paid to the university by Mississippi State for traveling down there and whooping their butts.
That's right.
But does that money, and we're going to get off on a tangent here, but does that money go into a pool? How is that? Is that strictly athletic department money?
Yeah, it is assumed in their annual operating budget. So they look at expenses. They also look at revenues from ticket sales, suites, and then also, as we call them, money games.
Okay, I got you off on a tangent.
No,
we were talking enrollment.
You went on the tangent. Anyway, with enrollment, and this is, I guess, my way to describe sort of maybe our previous path. Repeating the same things over and over and expecting a different outcome, right? Some would describe that as insanity. And so we have 10 years of enrollment declines. We also have a history of trying to find quick fixes. The reality is there is no quick fix for declining enrollment. There is a lot of sweat equity and there's a lot of long-term planning in play. And so as you allude to, we have started to make changes in personnel. We've started to make changes in our strategic enrollment plan, our recruitment plan, in order to better equip the university to have an attempt, a successful attempt, we hope, for fall of '25 and then beyond. The reality is that right now with declining cohorts or new students that have come in due to COVID and a decline there, but then also just overall enrollment decline, it's going to take us a few years to where we can get net positive or budget or enrollment neutral. So right now, it would be unfortunate or a missed opportunity, I should say, for the university to not start looking at people in positions, looking at our plans and adjust accordingly. And so that's what we are starting to do.
Interim President of the University of Toledo, Matt Schroeder, joining us here on Leading Edge. We're going to continue our conversation right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back. Great conversation happening right here, right now with Interim President of the University of Toledo, Matt Schroeder. Nice enough to sit down with us here on Leading Edge. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cost of education, the price of education specifically. And I'll tell you full well, personally, I've got 2 kids in college. I've been blown away over the process of them getting in and the money that is afforded them in scholarships. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's Kohl's cash sometimes because how do they give out this much in scholarship money and still charge this much to have my kid there for 1, 2, 3, 4 semesters? How do you view things? Is school too expensive right now?
I think it depends, right? And I think that where young people are looking or even transferring adult students, it really comes down to the value of the degree. So for example, at the University of Toledo, our barrier to entry is relatively low and our cost to attend undergrad in-state is very affordable compared to an Ohio State, a Michigan, and that's important to us. Now, when we look at our graduates, and again, we talk about their opportunity to launch into professional careers or just employment opportunities, we sit back and there's a third party that looks at a social mobility index, which means you make an investment of X at the University of Toledo. On average, these students are coming out with around $27,000 in debt over a 4+ year period. Right. Which, as I think many of the viewers know, Ohio State and others that is exponentially more per year just for 1 year.
But let me ask you this question. And U.S. News and World Report looks at the University of Toledo, ranks it accordingly. But are you keeping these kids that start out as freshmen? Are they finishing out? And as part of the equation with enrollment, not only bringing kids in, but keeping them there?
Yeah, great question. And one of my goals that I've committed to with the board is a student success plan, a student success initiative. And what I mean by that is at the University of Toledo, I passionately believe we have an obligation, if we are going to recruit you, a son or a daughter, that from pre-enrollment all the way through graduation, we need to make sure that you are successful or those students are successful. And what I mean by that is not a degree factory where we're just going to give out degrees. They have to earn it. They have to have sweat equity. But it's our obligation for whatever you're paying, for whatever major, that you have the wraparound and support services to succeed in the classroom, and then also as you're matriculating through job opportunities, through internships, co-ops, et cetera. And then finally, upon graduation, we place you into a job. Now, when you look at the U.S. News data and data in general, our retention rate is right around 77%. So first-time, full-time, freshman year over year, 77%. Many folks might think that that is low, but when you look at the University of Toledo, we accept 97% of the students that apply. And so to be able to retain 77% and then to graduate those students, it really speaks to not only who the University of Toledo is, which is Toledo's university, but also our commitment to make sure that students finish on time.
In our final minutes, let me talk to you a little bit about the college experience and what the campus creates, provides, what it is within the confines of Secor and Bancroft and Dorr and Douglas. I have never thought that the University of Toledo was that home away from home, especially post-COVID, for kids who are looking to expand. Is that why BG is getting the numbers they are? I don't want you to speak for them, but I do want you to speak to the plans in the future for what that campus can be and needs to be. Where is a hotel on campus? Why does that not exist?
So two very different universities, right? BG and Toledo. Speaking to Toledo, you are absolutely correct. There is so much more that we can be doing to create a student experience. And as we talk about with the board, a fun factor. I had dinner with 12 students last night, and they are now starting to talk about a buzz starting to form on campus.
But things that won't impact them.
Right. Yeah. And so for us, you can do student events. You can, do things at lunchtime. You can do things prior to the game. But it has to be intentional and has to be sustainable. And so we have a lot of work to do there. We're making a good start or good push this fall. Thankfully, again, athletics is creating that buzz as well. But it's more than just fun. It's about career fairs. It's about opportunities for research. And most importantly, it's about opportunities on nights and over the weekends. Our students should not need to go to Bowling Green to have fun on a Thursday night.
And I know the Delta Hotel, there's funding there, obviously from the city of Toledo. We've covered that story, but I mean something that might be on the corner of campus somewhere. Is that something that's talked about, yes or no? Yeah,
we've talked about hotels multiple times over the years. We look at number of keys, we look at what we drive in terms of occupancy, what's up on Secor.
And I know Westgate, Westgate's right down the street, but it does create off-campus situations once again. Finally, with your final seconds, I want to talk about the athletics. And what a great start to the fall.
Fantastic.
And obviously in the past years, academics and our student athletes, your student athletes, are phenomenal.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I have to say, how about them Rockets, right? What Coach Candle and his entire team have been able to do is quite remarkable. What Todd has been able to do, Ginny, who's inheriting, a program from Tricia.
Right.
Just they breed success. And as I've said multiple times, not only is athletics the front porch, it is a window into what success at the University of Toledo looks like. You look at those student athletes, they perform well in the classroom, they have the grit, the resilience, and they really represent, as Coach Candle would say, that blue-collar work ethic that Northwest Ohio is.
But you see the spirit in the games on ESPN and wherever they travel and they bring their stuff to the Glass Bowl. You see the students, they want to be a part of a winner.
They do.
Yeah.
They do, and that's not only with athletics, it's as the university as
In
well.
the classroom
right?
as well.
Absolutely.
Matt, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate the time you spent with us.
Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely. Continued good luck and hopefully a great fall that continues. Matt Schroeder, University of Toledo, will be back right after this. Welcome back. 18 of them and counting. We always like people, featuring people with passion and purpose, and this group next here on Leading Edge has shown it in producing a Toledo-based podcast. 419 focuses on some of the region's movers and shakers, and I said it would be interesting to hear about the selection process and what these conversations have revealed for these, and I'll call them this loosely, budding journalists. Gretchen DeBacker, Kevin Mullan, and Matt Killam. Great to see you guys. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting us.
It's not often I get scared away from having too many people on the set because we've got a very small set. Let's talk about this podcast a little bit. First and foremost, give the viewers an idea of how it came to be.
Well, it's almost a year ago that we had all sort of individually been talking about doing some kind of podcast, as almost every American has a podcast.
Right?
these
Straight out of the
That's right.
pandemic.
That's right. And
did you guys know each other previously?
Matt and I, we all knew each other. I knew Kevin the least, but in the last year I've gotten to know him much better. So we just thought we would try it.
It's been regrettable.
We're about to find out. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, that's right.
And just thought we would, bring on people that we knew and liked, and the others may or may not know them, and it's a surprise. And so we don't know who the other is going to be bringing on each episode, and then we just sort of have sort of an organic, no preparation, unlike the preparation you do, conversation with the person that comes on the show.
I got to ask you, with Matt here previously and the voice of the glass bowl here, Kevin Mullan, your impression of the interim president of the university and where things are headed?
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
Putting you on the spot
Yeah,
here.
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, ask me how I feel about my boss. That's great. I'm going to be real critical. No, I've been really impressed with his leadership, with his authenticity. He's incredibly approachable. And I've had a chance to interact with all of the previous presidents, going back a number of years, but never really directly. But I've got a better relationship with him than I have with any prior president. And I think that's him.
The one thing I did not ask him, a Central Catholic grad, he's a local guy being brought into this position to kind of, and I've used this with Brian Blair before, I've said, I feel like there's an institution need in the Toledo area to pick up the ball and run with it. Not to use another football analogy, but as a local guy, do you see him fitting that role? And do you see Toledo, University of Toledo, taking a bigger role in the city?
Absolutely. I think 100%. And I think that's sort of what our podcast is about as well, right? Is that it's about aligning and telling the story of people's passion.
Have you had Matt on yet?
We haven't.
Yes. All right, I'm one up on you.
That's right.
I think we all made a mental note to make sure that one of us gets him on the show.
If one of these two knuckleheads gets in before I do, I'm going to be real upset. But I think that's, for us, at least for me, I sort of take the Steve Hartman approach to this, that everybody has a story. And I firmly believe that if you show me where somebody's compass is pointed, what's important to them, that's the kind of person they're going to be, and they're going to be successful or passionate, and it's all going to work out. And so I think bringing people on that have that, as a compass pointing in the right direction, that they're very pro-Toledo, they care about what they do, and they care about others, it's fun to tell those stories.
It's a win-win, right? You can find the podcast, by the way, on Apple, on Spotify. I talk about conversations and what they've revealed. What kind of stood out for you over the last year?
Well, you find out about even your own guests, I'm embarrassed to say.
Yeah.
We get people
The ones that you've brought.
Yes, even the premise, of course, is shared that we're proud to live here. We have different stories, but they're the same, right? We moved back here to raise our families and live, work, and play here. And we find out what the people do, which is transactional. But very quickly, we find out what makes them tick and what makes a community, right? I know that sounds trite, but it's true. We enjoy each other's company, but the enthusiasm and the show really strikes the more our guests talk. And then everyone sort of gets it, right? This is a great place to live.
I talked to you guys a little bit about being budding journalists, and I said you start listening. You've got these questions built in your head before you ever start. Then you start listening, and you hear something. Do you find as you're getting better at asking questions, that's that's starting to surface, that's starting to grow?
I think it's interesting with our format because only one of us knows who the guest is coming into the episode. And so we were blessed to have you on the show, and Gretchen brought you in as a guest, and we didn't know, Matt and I did not know until you walked around the corner that you were the guest.
Yeah.
So we can't come in with prepared questions. We have to literally listen, and it's this authentic conversation where curiosity sort of leads, and I think it just creates this really organic thing. And as I said, 18 episodes in,
Right.
we haven't fallen flat on our face yet, or at least not that we've
dead
noticed.
air.
Actually, all 18 times.
60 seconds left. Talk to me a little bit about who you haven't gotten yet, who you really want to hear from.
Oh my goodness, there's so many people. We have had, I'm not going to name anyone because then I would be ruining the surprise, but we've had a real nice mix. We're not trying to find like local celebrities necessarily. We have people doing, normal everyday jobs. So I think there's so many more people. In fact, halfway through the year, we went from recording 1 episode a month to 2 because we just got so engaged and excited and interested in having more and more people on. So we're still raring to go into 2025.
Well, it's fascinating once you guys start putting these lists together and looking at the names, hearing the voices, hearing the stories, because you think about little old Toledo, but there's a lot of impact by a lot of people.
And there's so much to learn, right? I mean, we just had Chris Peterson on with her daughter Riley, and it was an incredible episode where I learned so much more about them. And it was so cool to see, somebody I grew up watching on this station in a different light. And seeing her in her next career, but also seeing her as a mother and as a proud mother, it was really cool.
Well, guys, continued good luck. It's great having you here. Once again, the 419 podcast. You can find it on Apple, you can find it on Spotify, and it's worth a listen. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. As always, if you missed any part of our conversation, and it was a good one, check out the WTOL 11 YouTube page. We'll see you next time here on Leading Edge.